Is the administration on the front foot or the back foot right now? Because when I watched over the weekend, there was a lot of defending this tax plan, saying it's not just for rich people. Already they're backpedaling on some of the state and local tax deductions. It felt like they were really moving backwards.
Absolutely. So I just want to make clear that this is not a binary release. This was a budget framework, a framework released to the committees to begin their work on. There was a lot of tax cuts, not a lot of deduction closings. But to treat this as binary, hey, it has something in there and it's not going to fly, once it gets to Congress, it's going to be able to be modified into an actual plan that could likely gain some support. And I think we're at the beginning of the process. They had a lot of momentum on Wednesday and Thursday. Our stock baskets were reflecting a much higher probability of tax reform getting done amongst investors. We went from 25% to 45% in that respect. But then on Friday, you saw a little bit of a pullback as these arguments began to come into place. And so the way I would explain it is, how do you modify it? Do you make changes to the estate tax so it's not just estate tax repeal? Do you make the state and local deduction, the removal of that, not impact as many people? Those are all possible changes that will happen once the political and policy work begins in the committees.
Vincent Juvyns, you've heard the policy expert try to go over the policy, and I just wonder at this point how the markets are interpreting the chances of what was unveiled last week to actually unfold and to end up as legislation.
Well, and before answering your question, obviously, and very hard to get back to an economic topic after the event of this morning in Las Vegas, I can definitely tell the Bloomberg viewers that in Europe it has been obviously the main news this morning, that everyone is concerned. So we'd like to leverage on this opportunity to also express our condolence, obviously. But back to your question and more on the political and economic agenda. We have seen the market reaction quite robust last week after the announcement that there was a possibility of moving forward in terms of tax reform. We've seen it especially at the outperformance of small cap versus large cap last week. The Russell 2000 closed the week with roughly 3% higher, and while the S&P was at 0.7. So you start to see obviously this optimism again fueling financial market movement, and we all know that small cap obviously in the US are likely to be the main beneficiary of any huge tax reform. We will see. I guess the enthusiasm, or at least the market, have become more reasonable in their anticipation of reform in the US after a lot of disappointment over the past couple of months. The tax reform is probably easier to implement. They will probably find a wider consensus in the US to implement it.